So, recently it has come to my attention that there seems to be an increase in reported sightings of Force users within the Imperial database and registry. So, as such, High Command has asked me to do a sort of crash course, if you will, on the Jedi and their history. And with the recent discovery that the Rebellion now have Jedi amidst their rank, this topic is now more relevant than ever. So, let's look into the ancient Force users of the light side, shall we? The history of the Jedi stretches back for many thousands of years, and we are talking ancient galactic history. For millennia, the Jedi Order have been the sole keepers of peace and prosperity, along with the flourishing of life throughout the galaxy, utilising the strange and wonderful power known only as the Force. What the Force is, we don't really know, but the Jedi allow it to flow through them, utilising it for self-defense and also for the protection of living beings. And just so you know, midichlorians are not actually the Force themselves, they just allow Jedi to connect to the Force, a bit like a conduit. Okay, so that's all well and good, but that doesn't really explain what Jedi actually are. Well, to get a lot more specific, they were monks that sought to dedicate themselves to the study of the light side of the Force. They believed in many things surrounding the Force, but the most important one was balance. You see, the balance of the Force is the most vital thing any Jedi can contribute to. Despite the importance of this teaching, no Jedi could really agree on what the balance of the Force meant. To some, it is the perfect ratio of light and dark. To others, it is the triumph of light over dark. Regardless, it was heavily debated among many Jedi scholars, but I digress. The Jedi not only made use of the Force as a method of self-defense and peacekeeping, but they also used the lightsaber. Now, you've probably all heard of the lightsaber, the fabled weapon of Jedi capable of cutting through almost anything. Well, to the Jedi, the lightsaber is a sacred tool, one capable of dispensing justice among those who would actively challenge the Jedi. But don't think this is a tool of aggression, no. The lightsaber is used exclusively to protect those who cannot protect themselves, to protect life and the Force. But being the protectors of the entire galaxy was very difficult, as the Order was only so big, however, and individual Jedi were very rare, with only 10,000 being officially a part of the Order as of the Clone Wars. That's nowhere near enough to fill the max capacity of an Imperial class Star Destroyer. So, with so few Jedi, how did their hierarchy and rank structure work? Well, for a start, it really wasn't that complex, at least not when compared to the Empire, that's for sure. The ultimate goal of a Jedi is to reach true enlightenment through becoming one with the Force, which is achieved upon death. But like everything else in the cosmos, there is always a beginning, and for the Jedi, that spiritual journey begins at infancy, as Force-capable babies are cared for and nurtured until they can undergo proper Jedi training at a later age, eventually starting off as a youngling. A Jedi youngling is the earliest stage of a Jedi's journey to becoming one with the Force. At this stage, they were toddlers and were pretty much clueless about how anything worked, so it was a crucial time for them to be taught the basics of the philosophies and lessons of the Order as a whole. Not only that, but the basics of allowing the Force to flow through them, and using a lightsaber to deflect blaster bolts and defend against adversaries. They of course needed a lightsaber to train with, so it was at this age range that they were taken to the planet Ilum in order to obtain their Kyber crystals, in a trial that really would test their connection and trust within the Force, with it guiding them to their crystal in order to build their very own saber. It was a relatively difficult test for younglings especially, but a crucial one nonetheless. After that, they could move on to becoming a Padawan, which was the next stage in a Jedi's journey. It was at this point that they had a thorough enough understanding of the basics of what being a Jedi meant, having passed the trials and proving themselves as potential peacekeepers. As a Padawan, their training is taken one step further as they received one-on-one mentoring with a Jedi Master or Knight, which they would spend most of their journey with. These periods in time were far more personal for a Jedi, as instead of being in a group of other Jedi, they instead relied on the instructions and teachings of one individual Jedi Master, whose job it was to hone their skills in combat and mindfulness, as well as teach them about the far more advanced philosophies of the Force, so that their Padawan may one day pass on these teachings to future Padawans. The most important lesson being that of understanding and learning to effectively deal with the emotions and mental challenges that plague us as living beings. In order to progress, a Padawan must complete what is simply known as the Jedi Trials. This test judges the Padawan on their fear, anger, focus, forgiveness, willingness to protect, instinct, ability to cope with isolation, desire to betray, and how well they work as a team. This test could manifest in any way, shape or form and was usually decided by the Master as to what it was, with the Council deciding when it should have taken place. Whether that be rescuing a civilian, investigating a crime, navigating hardships, or even escaping off a stranded planet, no two tests could be the same for each Padawan who by this point would find themselves maturing into their late teens or even adulthood. Jedi Knight was the stage that came next for a Jedi upon successful completion of these trials, and it is at this stage that a Jedi was very much considered an adept and experienced member of the Order whom has put in the work, dedication and discipline to achieve this rank. It is at this point that they will potentially be assigned their own Padawans and required to teach new Jedi about the ways of the Order. Jedi Knights perform a whole variety of duties, especially within the galactic community, providing aid for those in need from war and natural disasters, and protecting civilians who cannot protect themselves, expressing kindness, compassion, and yet ultimately staying true to the ways of the light side of the Force. A good chunk of a Jedi's early adulthood was spent as a knight, with them being able to choose what they dedicated their time to, whether that be scholarly study of the Force within the confines of the temple, mastering the art of combat and hand-to-hand fighting and using it to help others throughout the galaxy, or a bit of both, which is what a large number of Jedi Knights chose. Jedi Masters were those whom had proven themselves worthy either by accomplishing some great feat or training a Padawan to the rank of Knight. Jedi Masters had excelled and succeeded in all aspects regarding their dedication to the Force. Powerful and wise, it is at this point in a Jedi's life that they are on the final straight to truly becoming one with the Force, while still doing missions and completing duties for the Order, of course. Jedi Masters would also find themselves being invited to take a seat on what was known as the Jedi Council. The Council was responsible for making most of the executive decisions that had influence throughout the Order as a whole. These decisions were unanimously agreed among other members of the Council, who themselves were all Jedi Masters, being some of the most experienced and wise individuals that the Jedi had to offer. And finally we have the Grand Master, one of the highest ranks any Jedi can occupy. This was usually given to the oldest and wisest of Jedi, those who dedicated themselves to the Order for the most amount of time. The Grand Master is the most disciplined and experienced of all Jedi, one which should be there to impart great wisdom upon those who need it, and being the main decision maker when it comes to matters discussed by the Council. This was a rank for those who were truly committed to the Force. So that's a very simplified explanation as to the rank that the Jedi Order had. Those who failed to move forward were reassigned to roles like the Service Corps, where their skills were put to good use in plant cultivation, galaxy mapping, and civilian assistance, and a whole list of other things for them to dedicate themselves to in the service of others. So what's the history of the Jedi? Well, long ago, on a faraway planet in the ancient fields deep within the galaxy. You know what, never mind. Explaining it that way will take way too long. To keep it extremely brief, it is currently unknown what planet the Jedi originated from. But many thousands of years ago, ancient Jedi spread across the galaxy and established temples, monasteries and sacred grounds in order to dedicate themselves to studying the ways of the light side of the Force. Eventually, a splinter group of slightly moody Jedi split off from the main bunch and became the Sith, but that's a story for another time. For years following, the Jedi found themselves participating in many wars against the Sith, allying with the Republic but never truly turning from their ways, which would remain so for the next many thousands of years. That is, until now. As you can very well clearly see, there is no Jedi Order left. Well, to put it quite simply, during the Clone Wars it all went downhill for them, with most Jedi choosing to serve the Republic not as keepers of the peace, but as soldiers, being moulded into powerful killing machines by the Chancellor until Order 66. Order 66 saw the destruction of the Jedi Order at the hands of the newly appointed Emperor. Supposedly, they had betrayed the Republic, leaving Palpatine with no other option but to exterminate them. And that is where we currently are when it comes to the Jedi. There are some who still remain, but they are too scattered and disorganised to really build up what came before. simply due to the fact that most places with significant infrastructure is currently occupied by the Empire, forcing the Jedi into shadows. So you're probably wondering how I got this information on the ancient enemies of the Emperor. What? You think I'm some sort of Force user? Are you sure you want to go down that route? I mean, falsely accusing someone of using the Force comes with a harsh punishment. I mean, you don't want the ISB. And there go the ISB. Back at it again. Hope you didn't like him, because he ain't coming back. Either way, I think you all have a thorough enough understanding of what the Jedi are, what they do, and a little bit of their history, meaning that should you encounter one out in the field, then you should at least have a little bit of an idea of what makes them tick, especially with the elusive Luke Skywalker now fighting for the Rebels. So with that, why not like, subscribe, and share this video to start your journey into the Empire today, and with that, long live the Empire, and may the Force be with you. Jedi. Oh.